This is my long-term review of the Petzl Nomic. Now, I did make a video going over the Petzl Nomic, and it's still a good video to get some basic information, but this video is going to go over my overall experience, as I've been climbing with this tool for about 3 to 4 seasons now, so I have a pretty good feel for how this tool performs. So with that being said, let's get into how it climbs. What's immediately noticeable about the Petzl Nomic is that it's probably one of the best all-rounder tools. And when I say all-rounder, I mean it can handle things from water ice 3 to water ice 5 climbs to dry tooling. Like, it just handles everything that you throw at it. Now, does it dry tool the best? Sometimes not. Sometimes there's better options. And does it ice climb the best? Sometimes not. But there's better options. Like for steep stuff, the ergonomics do a little bit better. But the thing is you can still climb them in the Nomics, and they're still going to perform really good. And that's the big thing, is like, realistically, these are old reliable. They won't fail you, and they'll just handle everything that you throw at it. And it's really cool because for so long, the Petzl Nomic has kind of been the #1 tool, and it makes sense. And even looking at it from a design philosophy, this tool has really not changed for, I think it's around 15 years now, and that's crazy to think about. The biggest changes were that the handle changed back in 2018 and they added a nylon insert. But that's realistically been it. It's stayed the same, it's a winning formula, and you're seeing now brands are kind of trying to mimic the Petzl Nomic for their design. But it's a testament to show that Petzl just hit a gold mine with the Petzl Nomic. It just works really well. So for ice climbing, this tool, it just goes in. It's hard to describe in ways of just the fascination that anywhere you swing with this tool, it will go in. And it's going to go in really easily. Now, I've swung other tools. I've swung black diamond tools, I've swung gravel tools, and none of them go in as easy as the Nomics. There's just something about the Nomics where it hits the right angle, and maybe it's the pick weight, maybe it's just a combination of a bunch of things, but it just goes in. And even switching from my ergonomics from the Nomics, it is more apparent that the Nomics just go in anywhere. With the ergonomics, you have to be more selective on where you swing. You have to really look at the ice and read it. Whereas the Nomics, I can just like swing anywhere and it's going to go in. Like, it's really weird to have that difference, to just be like, oh, like, you know, I can just, even if it's kind of bad ice, like, you just swing a couple times, it's going to go in. So it's really, really fascinating to see that it just works so well onto ice. And the big thing is, like I said, this thing can handle lower angle ice. So if there was going to be one tool that you'd get for ice climbing, it would probably be the Nomic. You're not going to outgrow it. It can handle anything you really throw at it. I mean, like I said, it can handle water ice 5 and even water ice 6. You can do a lot of mixed climbing with this tool as well. Like, the capabilities are endless of what you can do with the Nomics, and it will be a thing of like, you buy this tool and it's going to last you so long. Now, if there's anything about the Petzl Nomic that I'm not too jazzed about, it's the handle. I'm not a huge fan of having the big open spaces in the handle. I can kind of like wrap my fingers in there, and that can kind of cause some problems. But there are ways to mitigate that by like wrapping tape around it to kind of close those holes up. And kind of this like little nub right here, I feel like this gets in the way a lot more. I especially noticed it when I was training a lot and on the plice. I noticed that it kind of like rubbed my finger. I kind of got like a random little callus right here. It was just kind of awkward, and it was kind of awkward to do like figure 4s on. So I'm not too stoked about that little nub. I know I've heard some people just like file it down to kind of mitigate that. So that's kind of my only really gripe with the handle. And that's kind of really my only gripe with the tool. Everything else, this thing is just designed really well. And just everything about this tool, it just works. And speaking of it just working, I've been surprised by how well it dry tools. For a while, I was just dry tooling solely with this, probably because it was my only option. And I was really enjoying how it dry tooled. I mean, even going as far as I was throwing the shaft into a crack and torquing on the shaft. I mean, hey, it's T-rated, so I can do that. But just kind of getting more familiar with the tool while dry tooling was kind of interesting, because I feel like with dry tooling, you start noticing the small things really fast. You know, if there's any slight discomforts about the tool, or if there's any like placement issues with the tool, I feel like dry tooling really does like kind of show you those problems really fast. And I didn't have too many problems with them for dry tooling. Maybe the only thing is that I kind of felt like my hands pumped out a little bit fast on them, and I think that's just due to how the handle is angled. When you have a tool like the ergonomics, the handle is a bit more kicked back, so I find that this handle is a little bit better for dry tooling versus the Nomic, but that's kind of the only thing I really noticed. And I feel like just having that little kickback is just a little bit nicer for dry tooling. And for dry tooling, I was using primarily the Pure Dry picks, and these picks with the Nomics really worked well. And that's another cool thing about Petzl. They have a lot of good options for picks. You know, they have, you know, the whole range between pure ice and pure dry, and primarily I always use the pure ice picks for ice climbing, and they work really good. I have used the ice picks before, and they work fine as well. I feel like the pure ice picks just work a little bit better. I feel like they get into the ice a little bit easier, and they clear out of the ice without having to displace a lot of ice. So I like the pure ice picks for ice climbing, and for just pure dry tooling, I go pure dry. And I think maybe if I have to do a little bit of mixed climbing, I'd probably slap the dry picks on these. But yeah, so having the options is really nice to have. And another cool thing with dry tooling and their picks is the pick weights. Now the pick weights have an actual design to them where they are kind of flared at the end. And that's really nice for dry tooling because they almost act as like a nut into a crack. And it's pretty cool to get your tool in that crack and just feel that it's just bomber in place. And actually, one of the times I was dry tooling with these, I was going up this crack and then I peeled off and my tool was locked into a crack at the pick weights, and I just had to literally swing out, swing back in, and just hammer my tool out of there. So it really is cool to see that those pick weights in use, and to see that they actually have a practical use. You know, they're not just to put more weight towards the head. Like, they're slotted in a way that they can act as like a nut, and that's super cool to use and super convenient to use while dry tooling. Now, kind of wrapping up my thoughts, they really are just the all-rounder tool. And I know I said that before, but it's really important to emphasize that if there was one tool that you're going to get, I would probably recommend the Petzl Nomics. They do everything really well, and it does seem like every brand is having to play catch up to Petzl. So with that being said, if you have any questions about the Nomics, feel free to leave a comment. Like I said, I have had quite a bit of time with them, so I really know these tools pretty well. So hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions about them. And yeah, that pretty much does it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.